Hey everybody, welcome back to RC with Adam. My name is Adam. Here we have a DJI Mavic Mini little camera drone, and it's got a little fracture right here. So we're going to have to do some amputation and fix this guy. Fortunately, we can just swap out the arm and the motor, and in this case, this is our front right arm. It's going to be a little more involved because we have an antenna right down there which is part of the extension, the little like landing gear thingy. So that's an antenna right there. So if you are shopping for a replacement arm, just know that they're not all the same. This one is going to be the front right arm, front right, as we're looking at it from like down from this view. I got this one off of another drone that had been broken, and we have 3 motor wires and the antenna right there. Very small antenna. It's going to be a little bit more involved, but I'm going to walk you through the whole process right now. Also, I want to say thanks to PCBWay for sponsoring this video. In case you don't know, PCBWay makes custom printed circuit boards, but not only do they make the actual circuit board itself, they also can add all of your specific components to the circuit board, and they have thousands to choose from, and they can test it for you so it's ready to rock and roll when it comes to your door. Also, they offer rapid prototyping services if PCBs aren't your thing. They offer injection sheet... What the heck am I saying? But if PCBs aren't your thing, they also offer rapid prototyping services to include sheet metal bending, injection molding, CNC machining, and 3D printing, and in all kinds of materials. So if you're working on a project that may be interesting to you, I'll have a link to them down in the description of this video. First thing we're going to do, take out the battery. So no battery, that's good. All right, so we're going to need to remove the screws that hold on the top and bottom shells. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 screws that we need to remove. These screws are really small, so be careful to not strip them out, and they can be a little tricky to reach. Okay, I'm just going to take the screws out, set them aside. So we have the bottom 4 screws removed. Now there's 2 sneaky screws down here. And we will get to those once we remove the top plate. As you can see, this one has been previously removed, and sometimes the little edges will crack or chip as you try to pop them off. There are these little plastic clips on the inside, and they can be very difficult to take off sometimes. Typically, I'll get like a razor blade or maybe some sort of thin pry tool and just kind of pry them off. This one's a little bit easier because it has been taken off previously, and honestly some of those clips might just be broken. But we're going to just pop it off carefully, one little piece at a time. Yeah, and these clips, honestly, I don't know how to undo this without kind of breaking some of those clips. So yours may come off a little bit harder if it's never been off before. Alright, so that's the top shell. What does that say? Repaired. Oh yeah, so I had repaired this one previously. Alright, that's the top shell. Now with the top shell removed, we can remove these 2 screws. And I believe all these screws are the same length, and they are like the kind of coarse thread plastic type, coarse thread screws to go into plastic. With that removed, we can kind of pop off the bottom shell, and again we just have clips. Just be careful to not snap it entirely. But it can be kind of tricky. I'm just using these pliers to lift up the sides. I'm not actually snipping anything with them. And also, these aren't pliers, these are flush cut snips. There we go. There we go. Alright, so just pop that off. You can see there are these little clips on the edges, and sometimes they break, and it's pretty much fine if they do, honestly. It's not that big of a deal. The heat sink on here is a little bit dirty. We'll clean that off. And then we're going to need to take off this heat sink. So at this point we've removed everything that we need to. Let's take a look at what we're actually going to need to get a hold of. So here is our broken arm, and the motor wires come through here, and they attach right here. So we're going to unsolder these wires, and then we're going to put the new wires in the same spots, matching up red, black, white, left to right. You'll also notice we have this gray wire coming down here that actually goes to the underside, and it's going to be underneath this black heatsink cover right there. So we're going to take that off as well. Let's do that right now. Okay, there's only 3 screws we need to get to. 1, 2, and then 3. And this third one is probably going to be covered with a little sticker that's like a quality check sticker. And I think it's also to let you know, or to let them know if somebody has tried to remove the board. You can see these screws are going to be a little bit shorter than the screws used for the top and bottom covers. So we'll set those aside in a different spot. All right, at this point, we can just lift this aluminum piece off of here, like so. It's going to be a little stuck on there because of the, oh, that one's actually stuck for a different reason. Uh-oh. Oh, shoot, okay. All right, so that's good, though. That's a good thing to take note of. So there's going to be some thermal compound kind of sticking this on. Now if you'll notice when I took this off, so we'll just set that aside with the compound facing up so it doesn't stick to anything else. You'll notice this guy right here came undone. This little connector right here. Not a big deal, we just need to get that back in place. So because it's just like this connector over here, we need to line this up and press that in place. That could have happened during a crash. Not sure what the deal was with that. I don't know if it had anything to do with the last time I took this apart or what. So that should be connected properly. We may want to do a function check before we reassemble everything, just to make sure that that's on there really nice. I'm going to take a little bit of this electronic grade silicone and apply it to this connector to hold it in place. I believe it's on there properly. We're just going to put a little dab on either side. You could also use hot glue as well. That would probably be the faster, easier method. And I'll just let that dry while I'm working on this other stuff. Now you'll notice if we follow this gray antenna wire, it comes up through the body, or I guess down through the body, and then in between these two plates, and then it connects to the bottom, as we're looking at it here, the bottom antenna port. So what I'm going to do is just take some tweezers and gently lift that off of there, just like that. We can pull that off, and you know, this one doesn't really matter because this is the old one. So we'll get that out of the way, and then we'll slide it back up through here. And we'll just kind of pull that through this little slot in the body. There we go. All right, now we can unsolder these guys. I'm going to get my soldering iron heated up here. I'm going to be using this TS100, but you can use whatever, pretty much whatever kind of soldering iron you need. So you will need some rudimentary soldering skills for this job. It doesn't matter the order that we remove them or put them in place, just the order that they are when they're soldered in place. Okay, get those guys out of the way. And the last one. There we go. Okay, at this point, all of our wires are disconnected, and we can remove the actual arm part as it connects to the body. So to do that, that's pretty simple as well. Also, if you happen to have like a gimbal cover, you may be able to keep that in place. I'm not sure, but just be mindful that your camera is going to be here jiggling around, so be cautious around it. So we're just going to remove these two screws right here. These just hold this folding mechanism in place. You can see they're short black screws with a large like pan head on them. So they're going to be different from any of the other screws, so you won't mix them up. And we're going to flip this over, and then we're going to press this pin with our screwdriver, and that'll punch that out. And then, you know, get some kind of get some kind of a thin blade or a little prying tool or something, and then just come under here and just pop that out. Okay. There we go. Now this is like a spring twist mechanism, so we'll set that aside. Okay, at this point we can just remove the old arm. You'll see we have a little bit of glue right here that's kind of holding this in place. We're just going to take a tool and just kind of pop that glue loose. Let's see. So if we nick the wires, it's not a big deal. All right, I just pulled that glue off of there. That's some really strong glue too. That's not like any soft kind of glue. We're just going to pull these guys through and out. Okay, and we can kind of inspect for any other kind of damage. It looks like the rest of the frame is in good shape. Okay, so we've got this old arm. We can just get rid of this guy. Or don't get rid of it. I mean, you could save it for spare parts, but we're going to set this aside. We don't need it anymore. We are going to take the propellers off of there, but that'll be later. Here's our new arm, and you can see we have the same setup. We have the 3 motor wires, red, white, and black, and the antenna. So what we're going to do is basically the reverse process. So if you're an extra smart person, you can probably figure all this out, but I'm going to go ahead and just show you the installation, and we're going to put that through there. I want to make sure that we're pointing up. All right, now that we have the arm in place here, we're just going to put that pin back in here, and it's helpful if you get some pliers. So what I'm going to do is get my pliers and grip this pin because it's like spring loaded, and then I'm going to rotate the little tab part to where, so you see it wants to go like do a full 180. It wants to be in either this position, or if we try to rotate it, there's a lot of resistance until it goes all the way back the other way. But this part is kind of tricky, but what we want to do is actually have this in the middle position. If we can get it there, you can get it to stay in the middle position. That's what we want. Might be a little tricky. So now it's basically under tension. And what we're going to do is line up the armhole and have it so that the curved side is facing in towards the drone. And we're going to drop it in place like this. Oh, jeez. All right, so the spring tension came off. You can see that it can be a little tricky. Then we're going to line the slot in the drone arm so that we have that square, the square part of the arm right in that hole. And then set it in place and press it in before it slips the other way. Now we're gonna have, there we go. Yeah, okay, that's the way to do it. So now it will be spring-loaded open and spring-loaded shut. So it's a little tricky, and maybe there's a better way of doing it, I don't know, but that way works. So you might try that. And we can go ahead and put these little screws in here. And just to make sure that that is attached and won't fall out. So let's screw this back into place. All right, not crazy tight. These are little screws. As far as the mechanical stuff, that's in place. Let's take our antenna wire and run that down through the slot in the body. It should go right down with a little bit of jiggling. You might have to align the connector so that it's flat. There we go. All right, and there's our antenna. Let's pull that through. Okay. There we go. And we can route this. We can route this under the little clips and stuff between the plates. Okay, and to the little teeny tiny connector right there. I'm just gonna line that up carefully. I know my finger's kind of covering everything, but it's so small. There we go. And it's just going to snap in place. There should be a little... Let's go ahead and put our little heatsink back on here. We'll just line it up so that the cutouts are correct. And just press it down. Make sure we have a good connection with that thermal compound. Now, like I said, you could if you have a connector that comes loose and then you reconnect it, you may want to test everything before you put it back together. I'm pretty confident it's going to be fine. I will test everything once it's all back together, but I feel like taking a risk and taking the risk of having to take it all back apart. I feel pretty confident it's going to work well. All right, let's going to put these 3 screws back in place. Just like that. Okay, cool. Heatsink is back in place. Let's flip her back over. We got the antenna. Now we just need to put our wires back in here. So just like we were talking about, we're going to do red, black, white, left to right. And it's also labeled R, B, and W. So super nice of DJI to do that. Thanks, DJI. We're going to get our soldering iron here. And I'm going to go ahead and tin these wires, which is to say just add new solder to them so that everything's nice and fresh. And we're going to have a good connection and all that stuff. So I'm going to put a little bit of solder right on the ends. See, it's nice and shiny, nice and bright. That's what we want. I'm going to do the same to those. There we go. Okay. And we will connect them right now. Woo! Okay, all right. Okay, we'll go ahead and get our tweezers here. Let's go ahead and do these left to right since I'm right-handed. All right, you do need to be careful to not keep the soldering iron on the wires for too long because this is pretty cheap wire, cheap quality wire. It's not nice silicone. I think these are like PVC coated or something like that, which is unfortunate. Let's check and make sure this folds properly. Yeah, that looks good. We have a good amount of relief. Nothing is being pulled too tightly. It all looks really good. This could even be that antenna. I think that antenna is just going to be kind of curved like that. That's not going to be a problem. Okay, so at this point, everything is back on here. And really, you're pretty much done. So we just need to put our covers back on, the bottom and the top. And then we'll test fly it. You could test fly it like this, honestly. So this one, again, we're just going to align the clips on the sides and press. Just clips into place. Oh, this guy right here. These ones kind of need to go. Yeah, there we go. They go under like that. That's clipped into place. Bottom screws, or the screws that go into the bottom plate, as well as I believe that heatsink as well. So we'll go ahead and put this top plate on here. Let's go put the top plate on. Most of it just snaps in place. Just make sure to line everything up. Snap, snap, snap. There we go. There, there's 2 big snaps right behind the front arms. That's going to get most of it snapped down. And then we've got these 4 screws. 4 screws, just like we started with. Put it back in. All right, cool. And then just in case you don't know, I'm just going to show you how to swap out the propellers as well. Each propeller is screwed on with this little screw. Oh boy. Okay, so apparently I lost that screw. I'm going to go get another backup screw. There we go. So be careful to not lose your screws. Now we can just put this guy in the spare parts bin. Let's go ahead and screw these propellers back on. And just a quick side note, if you are looking to get more propellers for your original DJI Mavic Mini, or maybe the Mini SE, I'm not sure, but you're going to want to make sure that you get the right ones, because the Mini 2 uses slightly different propeller screw threads, and the propeller is a little different, so keep that in mind. All right, putting this guy back on, so we should be good to go. Look at that. just like new. Hot dog. All right, cool. I am going to fire it up and test it out and make sure everything works well, as you should too, before you go out and do a full flight with it. Hopefully this was helpful. If you have any questions or comments, leave them down below this video, and maybe I or someone else will be able to help you. Good luck on repairing your drone. Bye.
We get bars in our goggles that show.